Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets is a mess. I feel like I'm still wrapping my head around it. It's pretty rare that you get to see a movie where so many things go right and just as many go so wrong. I'm so conflicted about this film that I've been struggling with where to start for a while now. So, I'm going to just alternate between good things and bad things without much rhyme or reason. Just like this movie. Okay, I'm going to start with something positive, the world building. The world of Valerian is really well done. It's fun, creative, and does what any good fictional world should do. It makes you want to see more of it. The film does a great job of implying depth in its environments, from the world of Mule to the Alpha Space Station to the interdimensional market. It always makes you feel like you're only looking at a slice of this universe, like Valerian's story is only one of millions of potential stories. If things like money and popularity weren't issues, this universe easily has more room for stories to be brought to the big screen. Not only does it have these rich environments, it makes pretty good use of them. The interdimensional heist sequence came as a huge shock to me. I've played games that did things like this in the past, but I've never seen this concept put to film in such an exciting and creative way. Switching back and forth between dimensions to steal from alien gangsters is a really cool idea, and it's probably my favorite part of the movie. Although that might be because our leads are too busy with the action to do much talking or emoting. Which brings us to probably the number one thing that killed Valerian for me, the leads. These two have negative chemistry. Every time they speak to one another, I wince. The film can't even sell the idea that they are co-workers to me, much less lovers. I have an easier time shipping Laureline with Helmet Guy than I do with Valerian. Their chemistry is just better. He seems like a sweet guy. Anyway, their relationship is just the worst. Is it not awkward to have your boyfriend be your direct supervisor, who you live with and work with every day, and he gives you orders constantly? It comes up that she isn't a fan of it, but, they had to think this might be a problem. There's an unbalanced power dynamic built right into their relationship, and it's weird. They even draw attention to how weird it is in the film in what feels like a half-assed girl power scene where they have Laureline give Valerian an order, but nothing comes of it. Valerian just looks surprised for a second and ignores her with no repercussions. This might be worse than just doing nothing at all. Thanks to this scene, I know that the writer knows that there's a problem with how Laureline is being treated in this film. And what's so sad is that this would be a great movie to call attention to how women are treated in these action-adventure blockbusters. But it goes about addressing this all wrong. The way I see it, there were really two good directions to go when writing for Laureline. Either just treat her as an equal to Valerian from the start, have them be partners, and that way you don't even have to outwardly condemn how she's being treated because, well, you wrote a movie with a woman who isn't just a sidekick. Congrats, you did the bare minimum. Or you can have her treated like shit, like she is in the actual film, and then have the characters actually confront this as a problem. Have Valerian deal with the way he treats Laureline, instead of just whining about marrying her in one breath, but then wielding absolute authority over her with the next. This would let you directly deal with the issue while also having some satisfying character growth. Look, the lead who was once an asshole is now a bit more understanding of how he treats people. But of course we can't have that. Instead, we have a movie where Valerian treats Laureline as less than equal, and Laureline decides to bring it up when literal lives are on the line, and then Valerian just forgets about it and the film moves on. Along with that glaring issue, the writing and acting combine to be even worse than the sum of their parts.
I know you're attracted to me. Why deny the obvious?
It's obvious.
Yeah, sure. Little goody two-shoes with an Ivy League education are always attracted to galaxy hopping bad boys like me.
I get what you're going for here. You want Valerian to be the lovable, overconfident space rogue type. But, you're not really backing this one up, Valerian. I have the feeling Cara Delevingne could do better than just a normal-looking dude who is an asshole. At least ask Dane DeHaan to beef up a bit before the role or something. Maybe take him to a barber. Did they tell Dane he was going to be in this movie, or Did they just show up at his house with a green screen and a bag of money? Cara Delevingne isn't much better in this film, but at least her character is less annoying than Valerian, and Herbie Hancock looks like he's about to fall asleep. Oh, and Rihanna is here for some reason. This is the most distracting cameo I've seen since Ed Sheeran showed up in Game of Thrones. If you told me before I watched this movie that our hero would sit down in a brothel, watch an extended dance number featuring alien Rihanna, all while his girlfriend was kidnapped by fat ETs, I would tell you, well, that actually sounds like a role that Rihanna would take, but I still would be a little surprised someone wrote the scene at all. On my first viewing, all I could think about was, holy shit, that's Rihanna. How did we get here? Where is this movie going? Where am I going in life? Why am I sitting here watching Valerian alone on a Friday night? It took me out of the experience, is what I'm trying to say. Alright, another good thing. This film is gorgeous to look at. It's pretty rare for a movie that relies on this much CGI to look this consistently good. We get to see bright, rich alien environments, with each one feeling unique but never out of place. It really isn't easy to create something like this. You tend to run the risk of ending up with your movie feeling too fake or too separated from reality, but Valerian pulls it off. It honestly makes me really sad that the visual effects budget was wasted on a movie with this many problems. Could you imagine if something like Firefly had this budget? And by something like Firefly, I mean anything with a good story and compelling characters. It's sad because Valerian takes some pretty heavy risks in terms of the environments it chooses to portray, and it largely pulls it off. It isn't easy to get something this weird funded. It's just a shame that the writing and acting don't hold up to the same standard that the visuals have set. The ending doesn't match the visual quality either. There are two main issues with it, and the first is the Pearl's whole plan to get their planet back. It seemed to me like the film was building towards the Pearls actually rebuilding their planet somehow, likely with the use of the replicating alien. This would have made some sense. They established that the Pearls and the replicators were pretty important in the original Mule, and they kept the potential of these items vague enough so that if you told me they could just remake their planet, I would have bought it. But instead, they went through all of this trouble tracking down the most valuable creature in the known universe so they could make a simulation room that looks like their planet. You know, like what they had at the beginning of the film, on Valerian's ship. You just showed us this technology at the start of the film. It doesn't seem like it's that expensive in this universe. They have one installed on a military ship just for fun. I'm sure the Pearls could have just saved up enough cash to buy a really big one. Why did they need the replicator in the first place? You guys know how to build ships. If all you were going to do this whole time was build a big VR room, you could have just learned how to build those instead. Or even just sold your ships to people so you could afford one. Maybe check the interdimensional market. I hear they have good stuff. Second, the scene where Valerian is trying to return the replicating alien to the human government makes no sense. Laureline and Valerian arguing about this in the first place makes no sense, and what side each is arguing for makes even less sense. The whole movie is trying, and often failing, to convince you that Valerian is a lovable rogue who doesn't always play by the rules. So here we have Valerian suddenly wanting to be by the book, while Laureline, who has been slightly more reserved and responsible for the entire movie, is the one arguing to give it to the Pearls. If anything, the roles in this conversation should be flipped, but really they shouldn't have left it in at all. It just makes Valerian seem even less sympathetic to the audience, and trying to turn the conversation into some sort of proxy argument for their relationship feels pretty cheap. It doesn't actually address what's wrong with their relationship. Valerian doesn't actually grow from this conversation. I kind of already assumed he would give the replicator to the Pearls. I don't even think better acting could have saved this scene. It just shows a poor understanding of already poorly written characters. One of the most inconsistent things about this film is the action. It varies pretty wildly between pretty good and awful, which is never ideal. It's at its best in the heist, but that's mostly due to the dimension hopping being pretty cool. It's not bad when Valerian suddenly becomes John Wick and flies around the room shooting robots, but the action really falls apart when he goes to save Laureline from being eaten. You can always tell when the fight choreography is bad because the film tends to cut at the impact of every swing. This is where having the CGI aliens really comes back to bite the film, because there's just no weight to anything Valerian is doing in this scene. He looks like a kid playing with toy swords, probably because that's what they are. Good action tends to be readable, and hand-to-hand fights are at their best when the camera shows you the impact. Now, I don't expect a film like this to be Crouching Tiger or anything, but I was really hoping for better than this. Well, that about wraps up my feelings about it. There are a few other things I'd like to draw attention to, like how Valerian and Laureline don't seem to ever care when people die, or how much the music choice of the opening was really just trying to rip off Guardians of the Galaxy. This all being said, I honestly do hope they make a sequel to this movie. I don't think it'll be very good, but I do want to see where they go next. Explore more of Alpha, maybe try different actors, experiment a little. I hope you enjoyed this little rundown of a very strange movie. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
The Fitness Gram Pacer test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test